Welcome back to Book of Dawn, IOTH Academy. If you're just joining us, our heroes are possessed. Let me press a button here real quick. That'll fix that.
No, that's just what I normally look like.
All right. Our heroes have received an enigmatic glimpse of the Book of Dawn, an item which is not even legendary at this point in our history, but it will be. They've been plotting on how to see it again, not through the memories of a student who was torn apart by the experience, but with their own or some fair pair of proxy eyes. To do so, they have hijacked Arianna's second year book report to go back to the grove to speak with the mighty genie Dubasif, who is bound by a magic circle, and to obeying their will. So, they've been talking with him about figuring out ways to get back, or get into IOTH's office. Athalor has a brilliant scheme. Does anybody else have anything they wish to do in terms of consulting or tormenting Dubasif, the mighty?
Dubasif? To what degree do you exert control on water outside of IOTH's sphere of influence?
My power over the elements is legendary and unlimited, except insofar as it is entirely limited by this accursed circle.
So, if, for instance, you transported us up vaguely high in IOTH's tower, would we be able to take, say, a bucket of water and you could make it kind of vibrate and feel like it was at least somewhat active? And then, obviously, when we moved out of your power range, it would stop.
Yes.
So then, if we could put down that bucket somewhere at the top of your power range and then come back to it, you'd be able to feel us disturbing that water.
Yes.
And then transport us from that water back to here?
Like a water walkie-talkie?
If it is a sufficiently large bucket for your mortal forms to enter, then yes.
How large does it have to be?
Dubasif holds out his hands, roughly approximating your diameter.
That's a lot of water to carry, guys.
How are you planning on getting out of that tower?
Jumping.
I hope you're being sarcastic.
You think we're gonna get out of that alive? Either reading the book is gonna kill us, or them finding us in the office is gonna kill us.
So what you're saying is that you're planning a suicide mission?
Why are you doing this again?
There's a lot of steps that we haven't.
She's stubborn.
I can have my familiar maybe through the next year or so, maybe just follow IOTH or follow higher robes around and just listen to any information, any contact, and because we need a way to get up there and find out what kind of traps are there, how do we unlock it, what are his office hours, and maybe even how to get an appointment. That would be the easiest way, because it seems like violet robes are allowed to just go up there. So, I mean, worst case, we just wait till we're at our violet robes.
I feel like that student wasn't allowed to go there, but maybe I'm wrong.
Wait, Dubasif. I was just thinking for after Arianna's project, for us to come and see you. You transported us into the cistern before, or whatever the large water source was in the kitchen. We should find a way to disturb that to let you know to bring us here. Like some kind of code.
Like every time we take a bath, he's gonna grab us.
Not every time.
Yeah, we do
Just like
stick our hand
we
into 3 circles and then that's the
yes,
signal.
like what Alex said.
Well, we have to be submerged, right? He wants us to be submergible.
Yes.
So
That's why it
back.
would have to be a large body of water. I'm just thinking of how we get here when we don't have the excuse of Arianna's project. Because this is going to take some time to set up, and we may need to consult with his glorious Dubasif.
Swish your hand in the body of water 3 times counterclockwise and speak my magnanimous name.
And that could be whatever body of water, right? To be able to, or within the, like, school.
I can create a pathway through the deeps of Liban, as long as it is of sufficient diameter to accommodate, say, your shoulders.
Okay. Can you get us like robes, by the way, Duvasif? Like from the laundromat. Like people are gonna wash their robes, and that's enough water. Can you just yoink some, I don't know, fancy robes?
That's actually a very good idea.
Yeah.
The
Checks
vast
out.
majority of the Archmages here use the cantrip Prestidigitation to do their laundry, but perhaps something will slip through.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, let's be honest. If you had a spell that could clean things, would you ever do laundry again? No.
No.
Well, I'd want to feel a little human, but are there like any like Mormon magic people who want to do things like like
Magical
how the old ones-
Mennonites?
Like some Amish mages?
Yeah, where they want to do their own laundry and cook their own food. Is that weird?
This is a. It's not going to be as easy as it would be if literally everybody just put their, did normal washing, but it's not unheard of. An opportunity could arise for him to snag something for you, is what I'm saying.
Those dirty mages using prestidigitation to wash is not natural.
Unlike our magic.
Well, if the violet robes or whatever robes are granting us access to the upper floors, there's a way of just seeing if walking up there with the right robes would work.
I mean, it doesn't hurt, I suppose. So you can just like keep an eye on that, right? Dubasif, if there's ever an opportunity, just grab them and we'll check in on it.
Yes, I will turn a modicum of my incredible time and attention towards watching the laundry float by.
Thanks.
You are not the first students to ask this, but the last ones were somewhat older and had different specifications. It was weird.
It sounds weird.
Almost as weird as seeing what is unmistakably a 12-year-old in the robes of someone who's been at the school for about 7 years.
Yeah, I still don't know if this is going to be like a this year thing. I mean, there's so many steps that have to be involved, right? Like, we don't have the first idea how to get past a place that doesn't allow, just being teleported or going through planes, right? And
okay, so
it's
let's
gonna take a
agree.
while.
We start here.
Yeah.
We will get it done. We will see this book. It may take a long time, but we'll get it done.
What if there's other students who have seen that book? Are there other Aleps?
Well, you can go hunting for them if you want. I'm fine with just for one.
I
Or
sure
they'll go
can.
hunting for you, I suppose.
Dubasif
last-
is not an expert in such things.
Well, that last one had a crush on me, so maybe if I just...
Maybe you're Alec bait.
Yeah, I can be Alep bait.
Those things can kill you, you know?
Just make sure Athalor is not the one doing CPR, because my
Okay,
ribs still hurt, by
Next
the
time I
way.
get the water out of your lungs either then. You can undrown yourself.
I don't... Yeah. Thanks, but no thanks.
I think we should get
Dubasif.
Arianna's seed soon.
I agree, but I have one more question for Dubasif. You said something that was really interesting. Can you tell us about the other students that have asked you about this before?
I'll tell you when you're older.
Well, you can tell us now because we command you to.
True.
Challenge the DM.
I don't know. There's like a spell or something. I don't know.
Alright, fine. You see, at the moment, your pathetic, fleshy mortal bodies are undergoing a wide variety of changes.
We're getting the talking
Puberty?
Dubasif.
We're getting the birds and the bees right now.
We're getting the fish and the shrimp.
Oh, not the shrimp.
Now, I, as a being of the dawn itself, forged from the elements, am above such animalistic perversions of the mind. But for creatures who are made of meat, this is a natural part of growing older. You start to look at other members of your own species or sufficiently close species in a different way. You feel a lot of their emotions as your neurochemistry changes. And sometimes that results in a bunch of people asking me to sift through the water system to steal underwear.
Ladies and gentlemen, tormented by gnomes, sex education genie. Absolutely beautiful.
Oh my god. And you said robes was going to be hard to get.
I think I regret asking that question.
Me too!
I'm permanently scarred. Trauma.
Well, I thought that maybe the students that had asked about this before might have been one of the students that snuck into IOTH's office.
For underwear?
Well, I didn't know it was for underwear.
What do they do with
Grandpa?
IOTH? This is a big scandal now. It can get IOTH kicked out of here.
Take his depends.
My very
Is he
existence is eternal suffering.
I think we should get those seeds.
I think so too. Dubasif, we'll see you later.
I very sincerely hope not.
Oh, don't worry. Eventually, it will happen.
All right. Arianna, give me a nature or survival check to collect the samples that you need. Because I imagine that your character has an actual project. Like, as much as this is a cover
Yes.
operation, you have a real project too. Otherwise, it
Yes.
wouldn't stand up to scrutiny. Go ahead and roll a nature or survival check. 16. Yeah, you get your samples. And under these auspices, you are able to return to your classes.
Yay.
And we carry some.
Yes. you
Which is
show up.
entirely necessary.
We're helping.
We're helping.
We're participating. All right. Alexander, let's work on your presentation a little bit.
Yeah.
How do you go about doing research and preparing to give your report on the dragon tribes? What sort of... I'm not asking you to know things. I'm asking you how you go about learning things.
Yeah, so this is from what we were talking about before. This is probably the start of like Alex's process of learning about the dragon tribes, which there should, I'd imagine, be readily accessible information just like in the libraries and things like that. So you would just like do pretty basic research, and then once he gets to one that he likes, like do a little bit more research on that one. But then just have general things to say about the rest of the tribes. But yeah, it would just be all from like library and just commonly known things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Make an either history or investigation check for me to determine the strength of your research.
Sure. History, it is 8.
8. All right. This is not going super well. And there's a lot of pressure on young Alexander to excel here. How does he respond?
I think realizing that either something's not going right, either he's not finding the right stuff, he would probably ask for help because Cryas is also in the class, right? I guess would try to find Cryas after class one day and go over and be like, hey, Cryas, what are you doing your project on for the end of year?
Well, IOTH, I think it's probably fair to call him the father of magic. It's not a completely accurate title. Magic existed independently of IOTH. It's suffusing the entire existence of the Four Kingdoms beforehand. But in terms of the actual modern study of IOTH, I think it's a fair title.
That's a very loud way to say daddy issues.
Glare.
Oh, where'd Athalor come? No, never mind him. Just keep going. It's fine.
But during IOTH's travels to codify the proper practice of magic, magical traditions arose in all sorts of different areas before the influence of the demonic imperiums, And so I'm researching some of those individual traditions and how practitioners came about without the benefit of IOTH's guidance, what their mastery of magic was, what their concept of magic was, how they talked about it.
Wow, you sound like you already have things all figured out. I, on the other hand, kind of don't. I was struggling, I suppose I'll say, and was wondering. I think I remember we had a class on the dragon tribes, and that kind of piqued my interest, being that I'm from one of them and all. And
Oh,
but I didn't
really?
know.
I didn't know you were from the Dragon Tribes.
Yeah, I am, yeah. But the other ones I couldn't really find much on, and I think I remember you raising your hand a lot during that lesson and knew a lot of them, and I'm kind of struggling to find information. Would you be able to tell me some things about the others?
Roll persuasion check, Alexander.
All right. Persuasion. 14.
14. Well, far be it from me to do the research for you. Discovering and uncovering knowledge is an important part of this practice. We couldn't exactly call ourselves mages if we couldn't learn things on our own, but I can probably recommend a few sources for you.
Yeah, wherever you learned it from, or if you know where to look, that would be fantastic help. I, of course, by no means want you to do the work for anyone. That would be preposterous.
All right, he'll give you a couple of authors to look up, a few old scrolls to go over. Do you read? Obviously, you know, if you're from the Dragon Tribes, you'd be fluent in Draconic. So some of the original texts are going to do you better there. He gives you a bunch of sources. About 60% of them are written in Draconic. Does Alexander? I have eyes of the Runekeeper and therefore is able to read them. Yes.
Yeah, true. Those Draconic anyway, but like
All right.
mostly there'll probably be some phrases that I like wouldn't actually know, but with eyes of the Runekeeper,
Okay.
it's no big deal.
Awesome. Go ahead, using those sources, make either an investigation check or a history check with advantage.
All right. History advantage. Round 2. Take 2. Bit better. 15.
Yeah, 15. All right. So I'll give you the short version of the story of the Dragon Tribes. During the Dawn era, everything always comes back to the Dawn era. Before there were 4 kingdoms, the Infernals and their legions descended upon the world to consume its light and remake it in their own image. And they won. They destroyed the city of Luminius. They rampaged across the land. They shattered the Aussie and their people. Until the Laughing God opened the 7 gates of the Silent City. And from those gates came the dragons. Such was their might that they smote the legions of the Infernals, laid waste to their armies, and sent the Infernals themselves, even the Destroyer, their general, cowering before them. This gave the sovereigns the time they needed to rewrite the rules of the universe, create the Emerald Tablets, and divide the Dawn into the 4 kingdoms we know now. After that, the dragons of the 7 gates were locked up again for their crimes against the world before. They were let out, unleashed on the Infernals, locked back up. As you're reading this story, a cold chill passes in the back of your mind, sort of a disgruntled. Actually, it's sardonic. It's not really cold and hateful. It's more like, eh. The sovereigns made new dragons inspired by the creations of old and released them into the world to serve as guardians, in a way, against the Infernals. They created new dragons of their own stuff, not the same as the dragons of the world before, set them out in the mortal world to burn away Infernals wherever they were found, purge them with lightning, acid, so on and so forth. The dragons, powerful apex predators, very intelligent, possessed of their own unique magic, because even though they weren't the same as the dragons of the world before, they were made in their image. Some of that magical power resonated with them. They discovered the young species of mortals, the various mortals kind, and essentially became mentors to them. Some of them became like rulers and tyrants, but others took on this mentorship role. And so they would gather, they would set up, and tribes of early mortals would come to them, bring them offerings, and in exchange, the dragons were highly knowledgeable. They'd share what they knew about magic, about the world, so on and so forth. And as time went on, these dragons became the epicenters of burgeoning civilizations and unique cultures. And from then, you've got the Dragonborn, who are a species of mortals who are of dragon blood. You've got sorcerers, because dragons are inherently magic. So anybody with a draconic bloodline has innate latent magical power. And there are 10 main types of dragons. So for each type of dragon, a different dragon tribe arose, taking their values, their traditions, their attitude, sort of modeled off of whatever that dragon be, gold dragons, red dragons, blue dragons, etc. The dragon tribes occupy a huge amount of territory. Each one of them is a nation unto themselves, and they dwell primarily in the east. And that's like the 101 on them. And you don't have to recite that for your report because, your character spends hours and hours on this.
Yeah.
But no, it's shaping up to be in good shape. Aside from just writing all that stuff up, is there anything else that Alexander wants or needs to do with this?
Yeah, he would go a bit more into depth in the research from stuff that you and I had already talked about, and would just then use one of these and get really familiar with upon stumbling across the tribe of Charir, and just do a lot of info on that.
Yeah, their cultural habits, how they dress, how they talk, all those things, highly relevant.
Yeah.
All right. Excellent. Athalor, you were writing your report on the lifeblood.
Mm-hmm.
How is he going about obtaining information, building his report, etc.?
So Athalor's, for the first time in a while when it comes to academia, feeling very in sync with the other part of him, which is awesome. Because his uncle's like, finally, something worth a shit. About damn time, idiot. And Athalor's very much a reader, so he's having a great time of that. But also Athalor's doing like his own revision by combining his two current objectives, which is tracing the path to the book, and then in his trance, he then swaps over the memory so that the book is the one that he was reading the day before. So that he's revising after tracing the steps to it.
Interesting. So he's using his own trance to... So you're using the flashing memories of what was seen in the book to do your research? Do I understand you correctly?
Basically just revision, just to internalize the concepts.
Okay.
Rather than just emptily reading it.
Okay. Roll an intelligence saving throw.
Bam. Well, would you look at that? It's lucky dice.
Oh my god.
Before you use your lucky dice, I think for saving Garnet, you still have some inspiration lying around.
Oh, that's true. Is that just roll again as if it was an advantage?
Yeah, that gives you advantage. So you can use that before you burn a lucky die if you want.
Let's go, gamers.
Okay,
Man, look at all this luck.
a 7, and if you want, you could spend a lucky die to roll a third time and take the best of the 3.
Let's have a look. How bad could it be?
A little lucky.
Oh my god.
My god, you're so bad. You're so bad.
All right. The trance keeps getting away from you.
Oh, my uncle was going like, no, we're going to have a look at that history, bruv.
Yeah.
Have you considered reading a book?
And the trance keeps getting away from you because the original experience when you were there, it was so overwhelming. The sheer onslaught of images, knowledge, information, experiences that you never lived. So every time that you try to retrace your steps, it just keeps getting back to that. And that is so draining that it overwhelms, it prevents the trance from being restorative. It starts to impact your day-to-day as, again, time goes on, time-lapse montage stuff. Spending so much time on the paths of memory and getting lost in this place, it's taking a toll. You're starting to be more fatigued. You're starting to be a little bit more distracted. And it's not really leading to anything good. How would Athalor resolve this difficulty?
I think after the first couple of days, you'd realize like this isn't working, and try and trance towards like other memories
Mm-hmm.
of a more recent school year and stuff that were away from the night that really turned his brain to blancmange.
All right. So that's going to help in terms of actually getting rest, but in terms of doing research for your report on the Earth's blood, given that the memory walking was a little bit still too dangerous, how is he going to go about writing that?
I think he'd lean pretty heavily into his uncle this time. He feels like he's owed something after the trances all went awry. He's like, something ain't right here. I can usually do these. You're messing with this. So he'd lean pretty heavily into that for like preparatory stuff.
All right. Your uncle would, and in addition to reading and such, your uncle would convey to you
Earth's blood, lifeblood, essential to this world as any other element. Flowed naturally through restorative cycle, through underworld, through mortal world, back down. Flow interrupted by Blade of the Destroyer, Infernal General, Destroyer of Earth Sovereign. Spilled out, disrupted life cycle. Sense wafted through the four kingdoms. Firmament damaged by discorporation of Earth Sovereign.
Do you mean that we're losing it over time? It's draining out of a cycle?
No. Its scent has carried across the hungry dark. The scent of blood.
Athalor is somewhat bewildered by this and wondering whether it should be added to the report, as it seems slightly beyond what would be reasonable capabilities for someone who doesn't have this kind of helper.
Normal custodian, Romius. Dereliction of duty after the death of his mother. Current status unknown.
Athalor's like very taken aback. Are you listing missing people to me in real time?
Missing Titan. Former task cupbearer to the gods. Poured lifeblood into the veins of newly born life. Process currently automatic. Inefficient. Unguided. Status of Earth Titan unknown.
Interesting. Maybe we could weave that in. Because obviously it's derived from the Earth elementals and things.
Highly relevant to topic of study. Highly relevant.
Going to be throwing into there a seven, but like, right, so people are reaching out across the cosmic plane. We'll leave that on the side. That's a backburner. That's ours. That's ours, Unky. That's just for us. The Earth stuff.
It is.
Now this we can make a science fair about.
All right. Excellent. You're in good hands. Let us move along as time goes on. Studies continue. Classes are taken. Garnet, you were writing your report on the Iron Butchers and the Machine Prince. You had firsthand experience as to what happened to your family and to your people at the hands of the Iron Butchers. You have not... Again, shadow magic and infernal magic, outsiders to the study may think that they're one and the same, but shadow magic is older than infernal magic. The infernals are strangers when it arrived. It is oldest and first. So it's a topic that you might have covered in brief in Myric's cave, but it wouldn't have been one of his core texts. It would have been, oh, that old thing that I've got lying around. Yeah, that's secondary to this. So how does she go about doing this research and perhaps pitching it to a class that is not eager to hear about the Infernals?
Well, she does know Infernals, so any kind
Mhm.
of old texts in the secret room, she would try and read those and have Master L now kind of direct her towards what would be good to read.
Right. Bring her books.
And
I think we talked about earlier.
did that like one book, that one Infernal book that I read, I guess you said I would cover it in brief. So so now you're asking me how I would do the presentation?
Well, I think I wanted to make sure that I knew how you were going about the research, but I think we already covered it with Elle now bringing you stuff. And okay, do me a favor and roll a religion check for me with advantage because you've got, the power of blackmail.
I could lucky dice this. Why not? If
A 15 and a 14.
Yeah, I want a higher grade. Do I?
100% or nothing. There we
And
go.
a natural
Good old
20.
lucky dice.
A+ or go home. Yeah.
Why are your lucky dice lucky?
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
Built differently.
Weighted.
Okay.
But I would try and present this as like factual. I don't think Garnet would really care about the students being scared of it, and just try and present it in a factual way, just about their origins, and thinking if people understood it better, they would be less fearful of it. But she's mainly studying this for her own interests and just making a project out of it, basically.
Okay. We have a problem.
Oh.
Yeah.
Should I not be studying this?
Would they realize Elnell's been blackmailed?
No, you rolled a natural 20 studying the
Give me.
Okay, let's start with the basics. The Infernals, and again, I'm going to make this fairly quick so it's not the super happy fun Joe talks for an hour. The Infernals, nobody has great records on where they came from. There are many other worlds aside from Anacra. Countless untold worlds. Anacra is sealed against them to be hidden from them now, but it wasn't during the time of the Dawn. The Infernals basically just came to colonize the world because they saw this. They saw a young world with no hard set rules or laws of physics, extremely malleable to their will, full of energy for them to shape however they wanted to, and people who didn't really know how to fight back at first. So most of the Infernals, right? You've got the Destroyer, who was their leader. You've got the Grey Jester. You've got the Mirror Keeper. You've got the Serpent. All these figures who all came from different worlds. There's no record of the Machine Prince during the Dawn era. None whatsoever. In the primal conflict that defined and changed the destiny of the world forever, that we're probably going to talk about every episode, no record of the Machine Prince. The Machine Prince first references, like earliest sources, don't appear until after the world was divided. Just kind of pops up almost out of nowhere, just shows up as an ally to the other Infernals. With a natural 20, you have learned its name. It's not that the names of the Infernals are super secret, it's that when you say them, they might hear you. So they would absolutely be kept out of the... Students wouldn't learn them because students are young, and young people make bad choices, like saying the names of cruel gods.
Who would ever do that?
Exactly. The name of the Machine Prince is Anacronus. Anacronus is called the Eschaton Clock. Anacronus works towards a design, some sort of vast calculation. The Eschaton Clock, Eschaton means the end times. Anacronus is a machine calculating the exact time of the end of the world. It is unlike any of the other Infernals. It allies with them all in the service of this mysterious design that it's working towards. Its priests and servants fuse mortals with machines and build vast clockwork automata, all in the service of this mysterious design, something so complex, it said, that nobody else is capable of calculating it. All right, so far, so evil. How do I link this last part? You come across a plate, a sketch, an image in one of these books that has an actual depiction of Anacronus, a mechanical entity rising up from a vast pit with 6 arms, metal wings, and a completely featureless mask.
Okay.
And you realize you have seen this image before in one of Myric's texts on shadow magic. And in that text, it was a different version of this image. It showed Anacronus in a very similar stance, but instead of rising from a pit, he loomed over a city with 7 rising gates, a city that you've seen before. The Machine Prince is somehow connected to shadow magic.
Fresh lore, baby, right out the oven.
Okay.
There's more to this that you'll get for free when the right context emerges.
Okay. I definitely don't say his name in my presentation.
No. All right. But yeah, you're able to put together a stellar presentation that gets you the highest possible marks and also several concerned notes in your file.
Oh, fuck.
Arianna,
Yes.
you've put together a good science experiment. You've already done probably the most in-character, on-screen work to get this thing going. Do you just want to throw a nature check at this and move on? Or do you have anything else you want to throw on this? Any spice you want to put on this project?
Nah, I think Arianna's pretty good.
All right, awesome. Go ahead and roll a nature check.
All right. Let's
Good at
get that
science.
A+.
21. Yup. You have discovered all sorts of interesting things about this plant, including the fact that the water in the grove, because it's derived from a genie, which is not supposed to be common knowledge, it's basically pulled directly from the elemental well springs. And this plant doesn't thrive nearly as well when separated from it. It can be kept alive, but unless you're using that exact same kind of water, it's never going to reach the same levels of prosperity. So you not only do you do a great job of trying to keep it alive, but you present an excellent report on why that is the case.
Cool.
Yeah,
What
excellent.
I have been able to figure out, like what I have wanted to share that information about it being an elemental wellspring.
You had been aware of that information. I think you could conclude that the water comes from the elemental wellspring if you wanted, without saying, yeah, there's a genie. And that would...
It's a floating thing. Where's the water going to come from?
Yeah, I mean, this is a magical school. That's not out of the question. So I think it would be fair for you to discover that fact just by looking at this plant, and therefore have everybody think you're very, very smart without giving away the fact that you have magical control over the supernatural entity that lies at its very heart.
Mic drop.
All right.
Sure. I'd probably share that then.
Awesome. And that's how everybody got that shiny new level, by passing their reports.
Yay.
Now,
Science.
barring anything else that you want to do for the rest of the school year, and you can montage things, throw things in, Cryus is developing an ongoing narrative in his head about Athalor, which Athalor's errant, what's casual taunting is not helping with. A conflict that is likely to boil over next year. Renobi continues this very like kind of focused on her studies, but also just sort of poking and checking in on Athalor, and not really, doing any school grade crush stuff, but just kind of being around, just constantly finding excuses to be around, and is very confused by him, but nonetheless, like I said, around.
I guess Athalor would have throughout the years several periods where he just looked incredibly sleepless from trying the trance thing again.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, you're not sure if she's got a crush on you or if she's just worried about you. Kids aren't super great at these things. Cryus is continuing to, he's gone from being a, just squeaky who got riffed on by everybody to having several friends who see him as being very smart and having lots of stories, and he sounds very confident about what he's talking about. So he's got a little group that he runs with.
A rival gang.
Christ's gonna make a cult, I swear.
And he works super hard, but also he continues to help Garnet with her homework whenever she asks. Always couching it as, just to make sure you understand. But
of course,
getting run along right around her finger. Does anybody else have anything that they want to do or say before we get you your yellow robes?
Just know that Arianna is always giggling when she sees Cryus and Garnet together.
Athalor would be quite keen to learn about how Arianna's project went, since he was part of the pitching process for it. And he tried something very similar last time when we were trying to figure out the rain. He was doing it with the stones, though, which were a lot less conducive to it.
Yes, very true.
Oh, true. Then I would share that. Athalor, I think you'd be interested to know that the water is controlled by that genie, and it is from an elemental wellspring.
So, do you think that we should not drink it in case he decides, offer people who control him now?
Huh. I didn't think about that.
Or
But
maybe I'm just paranoid.
I don't know if he can poison the water. I think he just controls the flow. I didn't get that far.
I've learned that, when it comes to the genies, they're pretty good at what they do with the water. I think that Grand Hall water. Big thumbs up from me. Drinking from the streams in the grove. I'm gonna go with no. No go.
That's probably best.
But still, really good science. Good job.
Well, thank you.
I'm also going to assume that aside from indulging in school shenanigans and trying to get passing grades, maintaining your friendships, all of you are doing some sort of scheming, some sort of plotting about your eventual plan to break into the headmaster's office. Does anybody object if I move on to the next year's ceremony?
Just some quick checks. Athalor would at least do the 3 counterclockwise swishes. Can I go to Dubasiv? Does he bring me there? Yep. And can he take me back? Yep. Just fail-safing the teleportation system.
When you do that, you actually see his face appear in the water.
Who dares invoke my magnificent presence?
Yeah, Dubasiv, I'm just checking to see if this worked. Glad to see you're here. And if I got in this water, you could teleport me to any other body in the school, yes?
You doubt the word of Dubasiv the First?
I'm just doing my due diligence.
Do you not witness the magical marvel transpiring before your very eyes?
You know what? It is pretty impressive. I'll give you that.
Yes! Anything else?
No, I think we're good. Thank you.
Begone!
And his face vanishes in a ripple.
It's like flushes.
Warriors out.
I probably want to have a quick thing with Master L now.
Mm-hmm. As
About
she's
the
bringing you
project.
yet another text of forbidden lore, being like, what is this kid getting into?
I think probably as soon as I see or read the Machine Prince's name, I
Mhm.
kind of want my necrotic shroud to like spontaneously activate.
What does that look like?
It is 2 skeletal, ghostly, flightless wings sprouting from my
Ooh.
back. Yeah,
Uh,
and it's like uncontrolled and all this stuff.
Mhm. Nearby plant life withers. Things rot.
And how does Master L now react?
She
I
steps
just-
the hell back.
Okay.
That is not shadow magic.
Oh yeah, true. I forgot. I read this guy. Am I supposed to know this guy's name? What we could have so much more power if we made an alliance with him. I should talk to him.
You should not talk to
Why
him.
not?
You should
Why
not
not?
talk to any of them because the Infernals are varied. They are many. Each of them has their own domains, their own objectives, their own bloody histories. But the one thing they all share in common is an insatiable, unquenchable greed.
Well, greed for power.
Yeah, well, for power, for dominance, for watching beautiful things wither. There is, in this school, this may be one of the only places that admits that the line is not completely carved in stone. That the power of the Infernals is a power like any other. A power that will corrupt. Like any other power, it has its nature. If you channel it, it will change you. A sufficiently strong will can resist that change. But it is not to be attempted unless you wish to become a plaything or a pawn. And in the study of shadow magic, we do not abide being the pawns of others. The magic of the Infernals can be learned, but it must be treated cautiously. And you always have to watch your back because they will take any advantage they can over you.
Well, I just want to be strong enough to kill him.
Machine Prince?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe someday.
Well, I hand her my report card, and at this point, I think through the years, it's become less like probably the first year it became like blackmailish, and it's like, oh, this is such a good ally. But I think over the years of like her helping, Master L now has become more of a motherly figure, or just like a more family member type. So it's just kind of like her approval of like my theses is like bringing a source of happiness to Garnet. So she kind of hands the report over. Look what I wrote about. Look.
She reads over it and rubs her head. This is good work. This is excellent work.
How many times do I have to say his name for him to come? It's like boogeyman, boogeyman, boogeyman in the mirror 3 times.
There's a chance every single time. Just because you say it doesn't mean that they're going to appear before you. It just means that you might draw their attention. And the master of this place, who made this place, has lost more to the Infernals than any of us can imagine. So it is a slightly sensitive topic. The greater danger may not lie in dabbling with the infernal powers. It may be in risking IOTH's wrath.
No, we'd never do that.
Well, if it comes down to it, I'll keep that in mind. Thanks, Master Elnau. And
Wait.
well, what?
Roll an insight check for me, please, Garnet.
Insight, normal.
5. All right. You're sort of glowing from receiving praise and distracted by thoughts of, if I say his name, can I get strong enough to then kill him for killing my family? Which is, I'm sure it makes sense in Garnet's head. I mean, she's somewhat Machiavellian, so it's not that far out. You fail to realize that Elnau is conflicted and holding something back.
No.
And she says, when you get your violet robes, we'll go out into the field, out of the protective sphere of the academy, out of IOTH's prying eyes, and then we can delve into these matters.
Okay, I'll study hard.
Good. Nod of approval and departure.
Summoning demons.
Anything else for the school year?
I think Alex would try to get his hands on some actual thieves' tools.
And how is he going to go about doing that?
So there's people who have like they work with different like skills with different tools and stuff, and so he'd probably try to be like, oh, where's this class, and maybe be like, just try to find someone, probably someone a little bit older, because then they probably know how to like do this stuff better, and just like offered to like trade an onyx gemstone for if they can craft a set of thieves tools, or
Okay.
like this would describe things like, oh, like some lockpicks and whatever else is in there.
So
is, like,
trying to be sly about it, not being like, hey,
Yeah.
I need a breaking and entering kit, but like, hey, I need this one awkward tool for my class. Yeah. Oh, and I need this totally unrelated other tool that
Yeah.
doesn't make a set of wire cutters when you put them together. Give me
Pretty
a deception check, please.
Yeah, sure.
And do you have any special abilities from your background that tie into this?
Let's see. From my background, I don't think so. But deception 22.
Okay, yeah. You are able to trade an onyx gemstone and assemble your own piece of your own kit of thieves' tools.
Nice.
Not matching handles, right? Like you got different materials because you sort of piecemeal it. Oh yeah, this is for jewelry making. This is for cartography. But you actually
whisk.
This is a whisk for making eggs. But you've assembled your own set of fully functional thieves' tools.
All right, dope. That should be good then.
All right. Anything else, squad?
What does Arianna actually figure out about this plant?
Oh, the Mordane vapor.
May or may not have stolen.
Plant math.
Okay. Well, tell me about your research.
So I feel like Arianna at this point would have taken a leaf and tried to somehow revive it. You know, she's been able to take dead plants before
and magically
bring
revive
life
them
back into them. So
Okay.
would she potentially be able to do the same thing with the leaf?
Yeah, give me an Arcana check, since that's part of her like magical gift.
Oh.
A 9.
Oh no.
It's
Maybe
about
too
halfway
young.
there.
It sort of has some brief signs of life for a moment, and then remains as dried out and dead as ever it was.
She'll
Did you
try
use your
again next
inspiration
week.
that you got a while ago for lying?
No.
Yeah,
I didn't.
I don't think you ever actually spent that. You've got that in your pocket if you want to throw it out there.
She's gonna try again.
All right. Roll it.
Second pass at revival.
20 total. A dirty 20.
Clutch chat.
All right. With sort of frustration, puts herself back in the garden, puts herself back in where she grew up. for a moment focusing on the presence of her parents and their love and affection, maybe not realizing the fact that they may or may not approve of reviving a hallucinogenic drug, but it doesn't matter. And it starts to bloom and blossom again.
Ooh.
It's roll a nature check for me as you take a look at it. 22. This is a bog.
Thanks, chat.
This is a bog plant. It's got leaves that sort of spread out across water. It grows in extremely damp soil. It's not quite like a water floating plant like a lily, but it grows in waterlogged soil with a little bit of an alkali content and colder weather. It thrives on colder weather. Not like swamps, not sweltering hot, but cold marshes and bogs. You're able to determine that because you've been studying botany. You know what signs to look for. And it's going to take you a little time, but with your magic and your ability to say, well, I'm going to create a little environment. I've got a little environment for my official project, show to the teachers box over here, and then my never show to the teachers box over here. And you're able to start nurturing and growing this little Mordain plant. It's got blossoms that are these very thin, sort of almost ribbony, light blue with a purplish tinge and a yellow, like central part that goes to it. And you're able to grow it. What do you want to know about it, aside from where it grows?
I kind of want to would at this point Arianna know how to chemically test this plant, like other parts of it? Because obviously she knows at this point that the leaves are the most potent part, but I think she'd want to know if there was anything else, like the flower or the
Bark
like
out
a
there.
bud or the roots or something. Something.
Can I smoke this?
Did you pick up proficiency in the herbalism kit as part of your class? I think you did. I think that's
Might have even
something.
got it for graduating, so we
I
got
thought you did.
bonuses.
Because I thought we all got a perk.
Yeah, I gave you each a perk for the classes that you took. But I think I said, we'll add this to your character sheet, and then I didn't add it to your character sheet. So
That's okay.
let me add that to your character sheet real quick, and I'm going to have you make an herbalism kit check.
Ooh.
It's going to be right under your jeweler's tools. Roll an herbalism kit check with your intelligence score.
How do I do that?
So it's going to be under your skills on the left-hand side,
Yes.
where your jeweler's tools would be. You're going to click on the herbalism kit. It's going to say, what skill, what ability score do you want to use with this? You're going to select that one that I said, intelligence.
Oh no!
A natural one.
A natural
Wow.
1. You don't have the lucky feet, do you?
You have accidentally destroyed your... Oh no, what if it sets on fire and gets the whole school high?
No. Evacuate.
Roll a constitution saving throw for me, please.
Oh,
God.
okay, you gave him an idea.
A 7.
Uh-oh.
I do believe you're fucked.
Okay.
What
You
is this roll?
poison yourself accidentally in the process. You know the Mordain vapor is incredibly toxic. You know that the plant, when it's not properly treated, is incredibly toxic. But in the process of doing this testing, you accidentally splatter some, and a drop gets in your eye, and it absorbs immediately. And you take 16 points of poison damage.
Oh my god.
Holy!
And
I
are-
wasn't wearing any PPE.
PP.
Now we're in a pandemic. It's all been shipped off to the other world.
exactly.
Ah, damn it!
And you are unconscious. Where would you have been doing this experiment?
Oh my god.
That's a great question.
On the next episode.
I mean, there's a world where, like, if she wanted secrecy for the experiment, she could always have used Dubacy to be like, yo, I'm going to the shrine where no one goes. I'm just going to leave my plants here. You don't mind, do you? Don't smoke these, by the way. They're very nasty.
It's after hours
to be
lab.
fair, like, is there actually a place in the grove where I would have been able to properly culture this plant?
Well, where were you culturing? Because you had your control specimen that you were growing for your science project, right?
Yeah.
Were you growing the Mordain plant with that or separately?
Separately.
Okay. So you could have theoretically have used your knowledge of nature and Dubasif's ability to bucket port you to the grove to have a secret place somewhere in the grove, which would put you completely past all help, utterly alone, dying of poison.
Apart from Dubacy.
Honestly, that really seems like an awesome place for us to end the episode and wait until next time. Like, it just seems right, you know?
No.
You know
Why do we
what?
always end on a child dying?
Yeah,
Why do you keep doing
this.
things that can get yourselves killed?
Well,
We're really bad at
because
being
we're
normal
12.
students.
She's
No,
just playing
that's-
with pot.
That's 100% a fair answer. Like, that's a completely fair answer.
Little girl, you're under arrest under suspicion of intent to distribute mandrake or whatever it's called.
Intent to distribute.
Yeah, pretty sure Arianna would have gone to the grove to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pretty sure she's passed out alone.
Yep. Join
Time
us.
to get eaten by that dragon.
The Green Dragon,
Yeah.
nothing to... Join us next time when Necra rolls death saving throws to see if she dies alone and unloved in the forest. Until then, thanks for joining us, everybody.